It's absolutely wonderfully for me to be here, all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. And I'd like to tell you about my journey with great white sharks in Cape Town, South Africa. 20 years ago, I saw my first great white shark, and it changed the course of my life and my career. At the time, very little was known about these incredible animals, iconic but threatened. And for the last 13 years, I've dedicated my research and that of my students to unlocking some of the secrets of these incredible animals. A lot of my research, like Michelle's, has been applied in nature, so trying to gather information that solves real problems. And I like to call it science with a great white shark bite. Before I get into the science, I'd like to tell you a story about my first white shark encounter. In the background here is an area of Seal Island. It was a cold and very winter morning, very calm, flat, and was very quiet. And I didn't know what to expect. And then all of a sudden, this happened. I saw an upside down flying white shark. And I turned around to the crew and I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So why study great white sharks? We have learned that they, even though they're the most famous of the sharks, there's still a lot we don't know about them. And when I started, we certainly had very little information. They're the largest of the predatory sharks, getting up to 20 foot. They can live up to 70 years old, so like us. Their populations are quite low around the world, a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand, depending on the area. So there's not very many of them. They reproduce very slowly. Every 3 years, every 2 to 3 years, they produce 2 to 10 pups, which is what we call baby sharks. And these traits make them incredibly vulnerable to human activities like fishing and culling. And of course, they're incredibly important to our ecosystems. But beyond that, just take a look at that face. Those big eyes, that big nose, big toothy grin. Who wouldn't want to get to know this animal a little bit? And so I set out on a research boat with a great team of people, and I did most of my research off the Cape of Good Hope, which is the southern tip of South Africa, in a bay called False Bay, which is home to a great diversity of prey and predators. Sharks and fish, dolphins, whales, seabirds, and 70,000 Cape fur seals on a rocky outcrop in the middle of the bay. This is 70,000 tasty reasons for a white shark to come to this area. And our research has shown that this is the second largest aggregation site of great white sharks in the world. Some of the first research I got involved with in 2004 was to look at the impacts of cage diving and shark watching on the behavior of great whites. In South Africa, great whites were protected in 1991. Up until that stage, you could hunt them. And after 1991, South Africa was the first country to protect these sharks. Many of those shark hunters turned to tourism to make a living, so taking people out on boats to view them from a cage and from the boat. But sometimes these kinds of activities can have a negative impact on the sharks. And so, together with a Canadian research partner, we tried to look at what these impacts might be. And so we set out to tag and identify and monitor and observe these white sharks in an ecotourism area of Cape Town. And what we found was that the impact of the activities were relatively low and limited. We found that the sharks came to the boat but spent very little time around the boat compared to when they were around the island. They got very little bait, so they were not actively fed. And we didn't see a change in the number of seals that they were predating on, the main reason that we thought they were coming to the island. And so we concluded through this study that the impact of the industry, low to medium, about 3 boats at the time, was having a limited impact on their behavior, and that it was something that the government could possibly grow into a sustainable industry. We now know that sharks that are viewed in ecotourism are seen to be more worth alive than they are dead. And so it's a great way for governments to support ecotourism. And our research has actually been used in the South African government's policy on white shark cage diving. But the bulk of my research started a little bit later than that. And it started with a great big challenge. And this was conflict between people and sharks in Cape Town, following the spate of shark attacks. And as you can see from the headlines, these were incredibly fearful. People were very angry. They didn't know what was happening. And because of this, they were looking for answers. And at the time, I was just a year into my master's research, and I was being approached by politicians, authorities, the public, to try and find answers to what was going on. And so I focused my research on trying to understand what the white sharks were doing close to shore, very similar situation to what is happening with Cape Cod now, and just trying to really find out whether there were any patterns in their behavior, anything that we could use to understand what they were doing and why they were doing it. And just a little bit of a story behind this photo. This is taken from my research boat. I was at Seal Island and I got a call from the authorities to say that a 17-foot white shark was patrolling up and down a very popular beach. Could I please come and have a look at it? So I rushed over, and this was the first opportunity to try and tag a white shark close inshore. Up to that point, we'd only managed to tag them at the seal colony. And I tried to tag the animal, I tried to approach it, and it kept diving away from me. And eventually it got so irritated with me, it came around, bit my motors, and I went, okay, I'm not tagging you today. Luckily we got many more opportunities, and we've managed to learn quite a lot about what they're doing on the inshore. So this was a headline with some of my research. We see she sharks on the seashore. I did not have any wine before I was able to say that. And essentially what I found was that although the great whites were present in False Bay year-round, they had very distinct patterns. The males and the females aggregated around the seal colony to predate on the Cape fur seals during our winter months, your summer months. But come springtime, there would be a big shift. And the males tended to leave the island and leave the bay, but it was the female sharks that were coming inshore, spending a lot of time close to our beaches. And what we also found was when they were inshore, they preferred certain areas along our coast. So they preferred the beach areas compared to the rocky, reefy areas. So places that we like to be. They prefer to be there during the day. Again, times of day when we like to be there. They prefer to be there when the water was warm, over 64, for us warm, over 64 degrees Fahrenheit. And they also prefer to be there when it was new moon compared to full moon. So we found really distinct patterns in their behavior. And we believe that this is because of increased opportunities for finding food under these conditions and for successfully capturing food. And that's really neat, but so what? A lot of this information has now been incorporated into the City of Cape Town's white shark safety policy. It's been used in various media, proactive media, press releases every year to remind people that the sharks are going to start moving inshore. It's been used in signage on our beaches. on websites. And this is really important because at the end of the day, the ocean is a wild space. And what we can do is provide current and relevant information so that people who use that space can make informed decisions and can hopefully try and reduce the risk of a negative encounter, thereby trying to solve human-wildlife conflict without having to kill sharks. And that's what happens in some places in the world. We've also implemented a very successful shark surveillance system called Shark Spotters in South Africa, where people are warned when a shark swims close by, the people get out of the water, wait for the shark to swim on by, and then get back in again. Some of the current research that I'm busy with now is looking at the white shark population on a greater scale. So what you have here is a map of Southern Africa and our neighbors, and these are the tracks of 34 satellite tagged white sharks, which we tagged in 2012, together with an American NGO called OSearch and a number of collaborating scientific institutions. And what you see here are two different kinds of behavior. So you'll see the blue dots and the red dots. The blue tracks of the sharks indicate fast transit type behavior, so they're moving through the area. And the red dots indicate the slow resident behavior. And what you can see immediately is that most of the slow resident and aggregating behavior is close to shore. But what you can also see is that these sharks do not see boundaries. And while South Africa fully protects the white shark, our neighbors in Mozambique don't. And so there's a lot of areas, such as Mozambique, where they are spending a lot of time and are facing many threats. And in fact, one of our tag sharks was caught and killed in a gill net in this area. So what I'm trying to do now, and this is something that I'm currently working on, is overlay these tracks with various threats. Threats from fishing, threats from shark nets, and the pink lines on this map represent pelagic longline effort. And what I'm trying to do is calculate the percentage of risk that these sharks face in their travels, and hope that we can work together with our neighbors and other countries to better conserve this threatened predator. And so I'd like to end off by saying that I truly believe that science plays an important role in policy and management. And it also plays an important role in helping people to understand these animals and hopefully accept them as part of our beautiful world. And I also hope, on a personal level, that my children get to see a flying upside-down shark as well, and get to see the raw nature that is the white shark. And that's what I call science with bite. Thank you very much.